Hey guys, welcome back to Maelstrom Gaming Studios. I'm Craig.
And I'm Connor.
And today we have a different video for you guys. We're going to go over the evolution of power creep in 9th edition. We're going to just take a walk down memory lane for the past few years and see how power creep has really come into play in 9th edition. Who knows how long 9th edition is going to be around? Maybe the rest of the codex are just going to be more and more nasty. We'll see. But we're going to talk about it all today. Before we do dive in, I just want to show off a few things. I think now, after third time's the charm of setting up cameras, we want to thank our members specifically for helping us get to where we are with these cameras. We have a bunch of cameras. Maybe I can swap to them. There's that one.
Hey.
Hello, that one's working. And the dice cam is working. It better not be recording double audio. I don't know how it was doing that because there is no mic on this one.
It was magically
listening.
Yeah.
And for our next battle report, stay tuned. There's a score tracker now. Yes, yeah. Oh, well, it's up. There it is, right there. Down there.
Yeah.
You guys will see that. So we will. We just want to thank our members again. We're getting really close to having some next level battle reports, at least in our standards. So thank you guys, members. Now with all that out of the way, let's dive into this power creep video.
All right, you guys, so I just put some slides together because I had the idea power creep has been coming up a lot with the most recent codices, and I thought it'd be fun to walk through. We're not going to go through everything.
Every little detail.
There's been too much stuff that's super overpowered and then gets nerfed, but basically I've put down the game-breaking stuff. Some of it has been nerfed, some of it has not still. And we're just going to talk about the big events and then, just go over some of the more medium level stuff at the end.
For sure.
So first off, we're going to start in chronological order. In October of 2020, the Space Marines and the Necrons were the first codices to come out for 9th edition. Now, there's really not too much to say about them, but it sets the stage for everything else to be based off of. So, Space Marines came out, 2 wounds.
2 wounds.
It's a big thing.
Big change.
They got 9th edition toys, they got, back then it was strong.
Yeah.
They got their Meltas were D6 plus 2
were
damage.
crazy for the time
That was
comparison.
Extremely powerful.
Yep.
Necrons, compared to now, Necrons seem like they are one of the weaker codexes, but back then, they had some good stuff. And still have some good stuff,
Yeah.
but I also just wrote down the Nightbringer. He's one of the few things that was probably a little too strong.
At the time, there was not a lot that could deal with him.
He got a 20-point nerf. And also, there wasn't the mortal wound dealing that there is now. So because of that, you couldn't damage him as efficiently as...
Yeah, there weren't many armies that could easily deal 3 wounds in a phase in one turn to deal with them. Tyranids were one of the big ones because we had reliable shooting, reliable combat, and enough sidekick to do it.
Yeah,
but
I can't really think of any other...
Not too much. So the Nightbringer was Grey Knights could a little bit, but yeah, the Nightbringer was a nasty one. But those I would almost say, it's not... you said it's just setting the stage, because I wouldn't describe those as power creep. It's just, this is what we thought was going to be, this is new 9th edition level stuff.
Which if every other codex came out and was around this power level, it'd be balanced, because it was, some new toys, not super insane, a couple strong things. Other stuff to mention is the Space Marine supplements came out after that, and
some of them.
Some strong stuff in those.
There is some strong stuff.
But again, I don't think anything insane.
No, they're good,
Yeah.
but they're not groundbreaking, powerful.
Correct us if you think of anything else in the comments below too, because there's stuff that I did not remember to write down. There's been too much.
We might not have even played against, really.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the stage set for 9th edition. We're going to jump through all the way to March of 2021, the first big one, Drukhari.
Right.
Maybe the thing we need to talk about the most as far as power creep.
It was the first holy crap moment that came on.
This is completely insane type thing.
I think you skipped one minor thing, but I wouldn't even call it power creep, is the Death Guard came out and we saw Mortarion. And everyone's like,
Right.
oh no,
Right.
it's Mortarion.
I have them at the honorable mentions at the
honorable
end.
mentions, okay.
But you're right, Mortarion.
But that was it. It's like crap. And then Death Guard or Drukhari came out like, oh, who cares about Mortarion
you're
now?
like, oh, every codex is going to be able to kill Mortarion.
Exactly.
Right. That's a good point, though. Yeah, Mortarion was. I remember when he came out, people were like, oh, the game's going to be broken now.
Yep.
Because of Mortarion.
But little did we know.
Yeah, little did we know. He's not even used in competitive Death Guard lists anymore.
Not really.
Yeah.
No.
Interesting. But the Drukhari. So the main stuff upon release was Raider spam. You didn't have to pay for Dark Lances then.
They were dirt cheap.
All of their units were dirt cheap. Mm-hmm. Everything. Literally everything. The final big thing on release was the Succubus. Pre all of her nerfs. She's been nerfed a lot now.
She has been. She's still scary now, but I never played against that version of the Succubus.
Yeah.
But when I played against the current one, it's still like, oh gosh.
I mean, this version was 60 points. That was it.
Right.
And then you throw on Competitive Edge, which I believe was a Warlord trait.
I think so.
And that's the one, Orcs, it's in the Orc slide as well. It's where if you don't get an attack, every attack that doesn't reach the damage phase, you just get to throw it again.
Do it again. Right.
So she was getting like 14 attacks a phase or something. Mm-hmm. It was just insane. And there have been multiple nerfs to Drukhari. I think the most recent one brought us to Thick City.
Thick City.
So in not the most recent chapter approved, but the one before, all of the stuff I just mentioned got nerfed. Huge points increases.
Yeah.
But maybe someone at GW really likes Drukhari because at the same time that happened, they buffed the homunculus units.
Yeah, they did. They gave some points drops to some of the homunculus stuff. They tweaked a few things, but also they did this. This was actually pre that chapter approved. Drukhari was such a problem that they came out before chapter improved and said, here are the new points, go with it, fix it. But yeah, seeing everyone at first glance was like, oh crap, everything's nerfed. And then those who kept digging was like, wait a minute.
Now the other half of our codex is
very
as
good.
Strong as the previous half used to be. So yeah, even disregarding Power from Pain, the army-wide
Feeling
the Pain thing, homunculus units, which we'll say Rax, Grotesque, Talos engines, Chronos engines, homunculi themselves, they got points drops and they're so tanky.
And they got some good weapons on them too.
Good weapons. Dark Technomancer stuff is a part of that as well. I believe it's been nerfed a little bit now.
Yes.
A little part of it was nerfed, but basically the main stuff in there was it's reduced damage 1.
Yep, on the big guys.
On the big guys. And the big guys were also core after that.
Yes, they were. That's right.
So you could stack them with the strongest buffs in the army and just have like this. I think they're toughness 8 or toughness.
No, they're
7.
toughness 6.
Really?
Toughness 6 wounds.
Well, still, they're just tanky.
Yep.
And they did eventually lose core, which was necessary.
That was good. As most armies you'll see.
There's a few more examples of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of the first big army that was
causing a lot of problems.
People were upset.
Really high amount of win ratio.
Yeah, if you look at the GT wins from back then, it's completely insane.
They were in the 60s%, I think. I wish I played against that just so I had some knowledge. I had not played against them. Just we don't have that many Drukhari players around. So
true.
So that's Drukhari.
Drukhari, and now we're gonna move on to AdMech.
Right.
In May of 2021.
So they were the same time as Dark Eldar or Drukhari, pretty much.
Right after, I think.
It was Drukhari, and then AdMech was the next codex.
Yeah, it was like 2 months later. AdMech came out.
And AdMech were just as much of a problem as the Drukhari were. They had their infantry came out, and they were dirt cheap and extremely effective. More effective than any other troop choice has ever been in 40K.
Way more.
And they have had the only other codex that's even close to them, I would say, is the Tyranids. But even then, the AdMech are on another level of just layers of buffs.
Yeah.
I mean, you have your characters can have built-in buffs, warlord trait buffs. Your squad sergeants can have warlord trait buffs or relic buffs.
Yeah.
Then you have your tech marines who have their own built-in buffs, and they have a layer of buffs on top of that.
Right.
And there are no restrictions besides the core keyword as to where those buffs can go.
Which perfectly brings me to Iron Striders had the core keyword.
That was the biggest thing. They were relative. I mean, I'd say point-wise, they were cheap because they did get a point increase. But the point increase wasn't the issue for them. It was the core keyword.
Yes.
It was, I mean, I think they were like 65 points at the time or something. Now they're 75, but you could make them basically invulnerable to shooting unless you're firing Titan weapons at them.
You could buff their ballistic skill.
You could make them the most reliable shooting unit in the game in terms of damage and number of shots and everything.
Yeah.
You could make them very fast. They did everything. And
they did eventually lose it.
They did lose the core keyword.
Second example of losing the core keyword.
Big losing core keyword. This happened at the same time as the Drukhari nerfs. They both came out pre-chapter approved. Some other changes. So they did nerf the stratagems with the 2 troop choices that made them super effective. The rifles on the Rangers.
Oh, yeah, right.
They've changed from going from, so they're heavy 2, and then there was a strat to make them rapid fire 2, and now it's heavy 2 to heavy 3, or rapid fire 1 to heavy 3. Anyway, greatly reduced the number of damage or the amount of shots they could get, which was good.
Yeah.
Because they had such long range and they were effective for small arms fire.
And cheap.
And very cheap. They got a point bump, one point a model. The Vanguard also got the point bump per model, and they got their stratagem nerf to be, now it was only on 5s and 6s to hit auto wound. It used to be 4 pluses auto wounded.
Yeah.
They dump out 3 shots apiece, and it didn't matter if you were
a squad of 20.
Squad of 20. So you had
60 shots.
60 shots, 30 wounds just in the shooting phase.
Yeah.
And then you could put all those buffs on them to make them more effective.
Yeah.
And rerolls and everything.
It was just a lot. And yeah, like you said, they got huge, maybe the most points nerfs in one chapter approved of any army. They got like HQs were nerfed, troops choices were nerfed, elites were nerfed, fast attack were nerfed.
The only thing that wasn't touched was heavy support because they were good compared to the Iron Striders.
No, I feel like the heavies are balanced.
They're good. For normal heavy supports in the game, they're balanced.
They didn't have core, so it wasn't OP.
The AdMech also, still not done with them, introduced a rule change to 40k, and that is because their flyers were so dang good and points efficient. Not only did the flyers get a points bump, but they limited you to 2 flyers per 2,000 point army.
That was one of the first big
army-wide change, or
entire game-wide change. Yeah, because that also that comes up in the Orcs thing as well with the speed freaks. And one of the sad things about that was the Scion list.
Yes.
Who were not overpowered at all, but because of the AdMech flyers, they can only run 2 of their Valkyries.
People were bringing six AdMech flyers in a list because you could, and they were that good, and now only 2. Which I'm glad I only have 2 of them because
I think it's good for the game too.
I think it is they tried flyers out in 7th edition and it didn't work.
It's no fun if you're fighting 6 flyers, and especially if you're like a melee army.
Yeah.
You can't attack them.
You can't do anything.
Yeah.
So I healthy change, I think.
So overall, AdMech and Drukhari, we'll get to it, but maybe the strongest things that got nerfed the hardest.
Yeah.
Definitely up till this point.
Yep.
So, that being said, this is a shorter one. Grey Knights, my army. August of 2021. They were not as broken as Drukhari and AdMech upon release, but I looked through a bunch of GT top 3 just from all of 9th edition.
Yeah.
There's so many Grey Knight top 3s.
Grey Knights were very popular.
They're just a very solid book, I think. And there's really only 2 things, I think, that have both been nerfed now. That made them so strong upon release. And that, of course, the main one is Dread Knights. Dread Knights, the regular Dread Knights got the profile of a 8th edition Grandmaster. So 2 up armor, 4 up invuln. They gained a wound up to 13 wounds. And as I'm sure we've mentioned in another video, they're good in every phase.
Yes.
Yeah, they can move 9 inches if they're undamaged. Shooting phase is solid shooting. Melee is great, and psychic phase is pretty good.
More importantly for them, the Grandmaster versions were even better, and you could have 2 of them.
Oh, wow. I kind of forgot that was a thing.
You could bring 2 of them. So most Grey Knight armies were 5 Dread Knights. And then you're basically kind of playing like miniature Imperial Knights.
Yeah, kind of.
And then you had some foot troops to move around the board.
Psychic mini Imperial Knights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they changed it so you can only bring 1 Brotherhood, which limited you to 1 Dread Knight
and that was
Grandmaster.
That was like the second big game-wide change, right?
So
it's a part of it.
Yes, they changed it so now you can only bring 1. Yeah, you're right. They did. They changed it so only armies besides Chaos could bring 1, faction, sub-faction type. So for Tyranids, you only bring 1 type of High Fleet per army list. Grey Knights, 1 type of Brotherhood.
Chapters for Space Marines,
all of that. Imperial Guard regiments.
Yeah, which was definitely partially pointed at Grey Knights. And
yes,
it was for the best, for sure.
I don't think, and again, these are chapter approved changes. I don't believe, if you want to play a fluffy game, do what you want. Of course, we always say that. But for the tournament scene, yes, it was a big change, and it did hammer home the Dread Knights or tone them down a little bit.
Yeah. And the only other thing for Grey Knights, I think that was like power creep potent, was the Interceptors. Our strike squads, I believe, are 22 points a model.
Yep.
Which is a good deal.
Very good deal.
But the Interceptors initially were only 24 points. So for 2 more points than our basic troop, you essentially get that basic troop with a different psychic power, but double the movement and can phase through models and terrain. That's very it's a very good deal.
You lose OBSEC, but when you have that kind of mobility, you don't always need it.
No.
So
and Dread Knights got a 10-point increase, and Interceptors got a 2-point increase per model.
Right.
Which I think they're in a more balanced place now.
I think Grey Knights, you still see them doing well. Yeah. They're not sweeping tournaments, but they're still placing in the top because they're a good army all around.
That's all I can ask for. It's fine. But so Grey Knight's not the most insane army, but there was still a little power creep there. Orcs is maybe the one I know the least about, and is one of the most complicated ones because they've had tons of nerfs. But the main big stuff that was really like game-breaking and annoying people when it came out, my favorite one was the Beast Boss on Squigosaur.
I love him.
Just a really cool model.
I love him.
And he was completely insane before he got a 30 points.
He was so cheap.
Nerf.
He was so good and so cheap.
I think he was 145 initially. Now he's 175.
Yeah.
But the big thing that made him so strong was, of course, the squig he was riding, the Mortal Wounds Bomb. And then the Warlord trait, it's the same as Competitive Edge. Brutal but cunning. So it just, if you don't get to the damage step with attacks, you get to try again.
I didn't know he had that.
That's part of what made him so OP.
Okay, awesome.
It's exactly the same as Competitive
Does he
Edge.
still have that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It still
so they
exists.
didn't get rid of that. Okay.
No, but he's just not nearly the deal he used to be.
Because he was so cheap.
Now he's pretty expensive now.
Yeah,
but he was pretty OP. Now he's more reined in, more what he should cost.
What he should cost.
The next big thing for Orcs was the Squig Buggy spam, which again they changed game-wide rules for. Or no?
No, they didn't. This
was a specific nerf.
This was specifically tied to the Orcs.
Right.
They limited it to 3 buggy models per type of buggy in an army. So instead of bringing, so the main culprit were the ones that had ignore line of sight.
The squig buggies.
The squig buggies.
Yeah.
And
they were just like mortars that shot squigs.
Super mortars.
Yeah.
Think old Hive Guard annoyance.
But with mortal wounds, or it was something like that.
I think they did those too, yeah. But they limit, so instead of people bringing 9 of them, they said, no, you can only bring 3 of them.
Right.
So reined them in a ton, and those were really carrying Orcs far places in tournaments.
They also got points nerfs as well.
They did also get point nerfs as well.
So, I was watching a video today that was talking about it actually, and this guy was like, do they need both of those nerfs?
Well,
I don't know.
Even think about it now, they have nerfed ignore line of sight shooting in general.
Oh, so they've been triple nerfed.
Those squig buggies have been triple nerfed since they came out.
Good point. It's a bummer if you bought 9 of them
Oh, absolutely.
which people did to play in tournaments.
That's why I say don't go chasing the meta.
Especially in 9th edition.
Yeah.
Nowadays you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But that was the main stuff I thought happened to Orcs.
I think, again, I haven't played against Orcs in 9th
Yeah.
edition yet. They're not very common in our local area.
We don't have a ton of Orc knowledge. Sorry if that's insufficient. But that's what we have.
They're also my least favorite.
Orcs?
Besides the Squigosaur,
Why?
the beast boss on
don't like
Squigosaur,
orcs?
and all the other squigs, I'm not a big fan of them.
They're hilarious.
They're hilarious. They just don't call to me. Except for the
That's fair.
Squigosaur. If I could run an army of Squigosaurs
Yeah.
and squigs, I would do it.
You just don't play the tournament rules, I guess.
I guess
We
so.
could do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let us know in the comments down below about Orcs. There's definitely more stuff.
Yes.
Next up, a lot of these last ones I know a little less about, but these are the big things about Custodes. January
yes.
of this year, 2022.
This was
Started off really hot with the Golden Boys, Henry Cavill's army. Shout out to Henry Cavill. So right away, before the Codex even dropped for Custodes, do you remember that in
Yep.
Chapter Approved?
Yep.
They gave them points drops
point drops.
before they came out,
Because apparently some play testers were
Yeah.
saying these aren't strong enough.
which is so funny because the original points look much more reasonable to me.
Much more reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, Trajan Valoris is better than Drago, in my opinion, and he's 20 points less. That's a small example.
That is yeah.
So yeah, it started off with emergency pre-release points drops, which is weird. I've never seen that before.
People actually bought an out-of-date book. They released
Before it came out. Yeah.
It was an out-of-date book.
Yeah, very strange. So it started off odd with Custodes.
Yep.
The stuff that got nerfed was only a couple stratagems. A couple of their OP strats got nerfed in Chapter Approved.
You're talking. Okay, so you're skipping ahead to the chapter approved now. I was gonna say
because this stuff. I want to talk about this stuff at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, before we go to those, we should talk about why Custodes were so good, and that was those point drops. Everything in their army was OBSEC. Everything was very points efficient, very tanky.
Yep.
And they could do it all.
Yeah.
So that made Custodes really powerful. And I think they were. I don't know what their win ratio was at the tournament scene, but it was
higher than 50. For
definitely above 50, even 55. And technically, you should be aiming for 49% and for that 1% tie just to count for it.
Yeah.
Maybe technically because it should be like 49.5, but I think you should say 49%. Should what we strive for all the codexes to be. But yeah, they were very good with the OBSEC and everything, which does lead into the nerfs.
Yeah. So, like you said, OBSEC everything. I think the only things that really have lost it are bikes and characters.
And Terminators.
The Terminators also. Oh, Alara's Terminators.
Alara's
right.
Terminators. So now it's only the Custodian Guard that
Which
have OBSEC.
Is more balanced with every other army in the game, I would say.
It fits how the rest of the armies play, but Custodes are so unique. They need those. I feel like they need those Terminators to have OBSEC.
I think Terminators might have been a step too far.
Because they're not going to win by number of models, which is what now they have to compete with when they're going to toe-to-toe on objective.
Which they do have ways around that. They count as 2 sometimes, I believe.
Maybe.
There's rules about that.
There's some ways to change it.
Yeah.
But mainly they relied on having OBSEC to compete for that middle objective.
Right.
Or defending their own home objective.
Yeah.
And now they have to put a lot more points towards OBSEC units if they want to play that way. And the OBSEC units just aren't as good.
No.
No.
And the only other big thing I have as far as power creep goes for Custodes is, and this I do not think has been nerfed, Custodes, before all these nerfs that we just talked about, their only weakness was mortal wounds.
Yep.
Because they had OBSEC on everything.
Yep.
But you choose the shield host, the Emperor's Chosen. That is the one that gives them
4-up feel no pain.
4-up. So Custodes always have a 5-up feel no pain. This gives them a 4-up ignores feel no pain. And until I think pretty recently, it was by far it was taken like 99%.
I think people are still playing it, especially with the relevance of Tyranids. The few times I've played Custodes has been Emperor's Chosen or Shield Host.
Yeah.
No,
Shield
Emperor's
Host
Chosen
is a
is
shield
the name
host.
of the shield host.
Yeah. So, I mean, that being all of the nerfs that we just talked about too, I think because of Emperor's Chosen, Custodians are still
They still can compete.
a little stronger than median, I would say.
They're not lower tier. They can still compete, but they need a good general to take them up where they were. But yeah, you mentioned the other thing you mentioned. We did mention the stratagems got nerfed.
Yeah.
A lot of their stratagems that were just absurdly powerful became one-time use or don't affect the bikes, which was a real... Bikes losing access to a lot of like their transhuman strats.
Yeah.
OBSEC really took people from taking, 10 bikes to...
Min squads of 3, I think.
3s or maybe 1 block of 5.
Right.
But that's about it.
Yeah, so they were just so strong when they came out. They've definitely been reined in.
Yeah.
Been reined in a good amount.
Definitely reined in.
Now, we only have 2 more big armies to talk about because as of making this video, if you're watching in the future, like far in the future, Tyranids just came out, and we're about to get Knights.
Knights already out.
Knights just came out?
Knights just came out.
Well, I don't have any information on
That's
Knights.
okay. They're not overpowered.
They're too new.
Knights are not overpowered.
Oh, good.
They are probably, since Gene Stealer called it, the most balanced codex they have come out with.
Well, good, because I didn't write anything down. So the last 2 big armies, the first one of the last 2 is Tau. February of 2022. And I just want to say this up top. I love Tau in the lore.
Okay.
I like them. I'm not a Tau hater, but I think balancing the Tau in 40K is extremely difficult.
Probably the hardest.
I'm trying to give GW the benefit of the doubt here.
I understand. Yeah. They are the hardest because they participate in so little of the game.
It's all shooting, so if you don't make them strong enough, they'll do nothing in the game.
They'll get walked over.
But if you do what they did here, they will table people in 1 to 2 turns.
Yes.
So let's start off with the biggest. What do you think the biggest problem was?
Biggest problem was their ignore line of sight shooting.
Yeah.
Or everything that comboed with it.
Which brings us to another game-wide
change. The big change to ignore
Hiveguard were also a part of this.
Hiveguard, well, old Hiveguard were a problem. I guess they were in there, weren't they?
This happened before the Tyranid Codex.
No, this change happened after the Tyranid Codex came out.
Oh, so it was mostly Tau.
It was mainly Tau.
Oh, okay.
Eldar had some. Eldar had their Night Spinners were pretty good.
Yeah.
But Tyranid Hiveguard had already been reined in.
Yeah.
So what it is they ignore line of sight shooting. Now, if they cannot see the target, they're hitting at -1 ballistic skill.
Right.
And the opponent gains light cover.
Right.
So they're getting a +1 save.
Yeah.
You're hitting at -1. The reason they did the light cover is because all of Tau's ignore line of sight guns, all their missile pods, ignore light cover to begin with.
So crazy.
So they have to give you cover, otherwise you're going to be losing what you're already in, and it just makes them even better.
Yeah. So definitely ignore line of sight. I would probably agree.
I mean, because you stack them on, you put them on broadsides, and broadsides were core, and they can take, 3 or 4 of those missile pods each?
A few.
Which have 6 shots
Bunch
apiece.
of little shots, yeah.
They're not little. They're like strength 5 or 6, AP -1.
Medium
1
shots.
damage.
Yeah.
Long range. Good ballistic skill when you put on some buffs.
This is not fun to play against a thing you can't shoot back at.
Exactly. Yeah, they just hide behind the walls.
Yeah.
Delete units, and that's it. They sit there all game.
Yeah, I think I would agree. That's probably the most broken thing about Tau. And you mentioned broadsides. They did lose core yet again.
Like another unit.
Another thing losing core. It was so strong. I think they've been pretty neutered by that. They're like a medium power level thing now.
I would argue that the Tau broadsides didn't need to lose core in addition to the changes to the ignore line of sight shooting.
Okay, sure.
The rest of their guns, they're not crazy powerful.
They just have a lot of
them. They have a lot of guns. They have some powerful guns.
Yeah.
But they're not crazy. They're not like the Iron Striders and their Cognos Las cannons. Mm-hmm. They're just, I don't know. And the buffs you could put on them were not as substantial.
Okay.
But I would have rather seen them get a point increase
bump,
instead of losing core, in addition to the nerfs to ignore line of sight.
Okay. Cool.
But they are what they are, and you probably won't see too many broadsides nowadays.
Especially now that like people know how strong they used to be. It's hard to keep using something that you know has been nerfed like that.
Yeah.
A couple other things. Those are the real big problems with Tau when they came out. Mont Ka was so much stronger than Kion.
Yeah.
Mont Ka was, so the thing that got nerfed from it was if you shot the closest unit, you gain an extra -1 AP. When Tau, they already have a good AP.
They already have good AP.
They already have good AP, so that was stripped right away in the nerfs.
Yes, that was.
Originally, this slad was titled Eldari, and I renamed it to Harlequins.
Yes, because the Eldari did not really see any nerfs besides the ignore line of sight change.
They also don't seem to be overpowered.
I'd still say they are a top tier army.
Sure, top tier, but
I
don't know if they're broken or anything.
They seem to be one of the only armies that can compete with Tyranids right now. I haven't played the new Eldari or the new Harlequins, but for the Eldari or the Harlequins, sorry, they've seen some of the wildest point increases. I know we said the Admech and the Drakari had such widespread point increases.
These are more specific.
This was one unit got like a 60% point increase.
Void Weavers.
The Void Weavers, which
the
are
heavy support vehicle.
The heavy support vehicle.
Yep.
Went up 40 points a model.
Because they're 130 now, I think.
And they were 90 before.
They were 90. I think that's right.
I think I remember doing the math, and someone said the standard tournament list went up like 500 points.
I believe you're right, because the transports also got a smaller point increase.
Yeah.
So now it's, from what I've read, it's more like the 8th edition lists are
all troops and stuff.
Just troops and transports
and
basically.
Bikes.
And bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so big points increase for the Void Weavers. So the other major thing about Harlequins is the pivotal role. It was Mirror Architect. Well, it still is Mirror Architect.
It still is Mirror Architect.
It used to be an aura that made everything within 6 inches of it not be able to be hit from shooting on a 1 through 3.
Right.
Always.
It was like a 2-hit transhuman aura.
Which is so crazy, but I think that was completely broken because you could just pack everything around your guy.
You could have.
So now they changed it to you have to select a unit, which is
in the command phase, you have to select a unit,
Right, which is much less strong.
Yeah. And they already have the rule, you can't reroll against them. So it was fail on 1, 2, 3, no rerolls.
You just couldn't really hit them.
You couldn't hit them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Good changes. I think they went a little too high on the Void Weavers.
Weirdly high.
30 points we would like to see.
I mean, even 30 points seems like a lot, but it's more reasonable.
They were so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never played against it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how nasty it was, but obviously they were winning. They were upwards of almost 70%, I think, on their win rate.
That's so crazy.
But if you think about it, in the days now, you're playing a 2,500 point army versus a 2,000 point army.
Right.
So, yeah.
So of course, and there have been multiple other broken things that have been reined in for Harlequins. I don't remember exactly what they are.
I don't think any of them were anywhere near on the scale.
No, not like that. That's like the real power creep broken stuff, but there's been other stuff for Harlequins that's been reined in as well.
Some minor changes, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
finally, we have April of 2022, very recently.
Hello.
And Craig's and this channel's main army.
Yeah.
I had one thing I wanted to ask you about before I let you just kind of go off.
Sure.
What was it? The stratagems. Is it just Encircle the Prey that has been nerfed?
That one, and Power of the Hive Mind was technically toned down a little bit. It now only affects characters, not the units, so not Zoanthropes and Maleceptors.
Yeah.
And then they reworded some other stuff, but no changes, no real changes.
So the stratagems really, besides Encircle the Prey, haven't been changed much. The only thing I'll say is the Tyranids they've had terrible data sheets, all of 9th edition. Your 8th edition codex had such bad data sheets.
Such bad data sheets.
Actually, for a long time, you've had just weak data sheets.
Tyranids have not had solid data sheets since, from what I can tell, 4th edition.
Right. But now, in 9th edition, it is seemingly the opposite.
Yep. Almost all of them are, you could argue in some way, are auto-include.
I wrote down some of the main ones I thought you might want to talk about over there, but you just talk about whatever
Let's
you
see
want.
what you. Okay, yeah. So the big thing with the Tyranids. So when I first looked in the codex, and I gave it my opinion, I said, for the most part, outside of a few things, this codex seems very balanced. What I didn't take into consideration is, yes, the codex within itself is balanced, but how does that stack up to the other codexes?
It's hard to tell that just from reading
it. And I thought, we'll see how it goes. Maybe some things seem really powerful. I thought, Harpies, why the damage 4? Really good. Ravener's got a 4th wound. I don't know. Very good.
Didn't they get an armor too?
They did get an armor save.
Got an
extra armor save too. Maliceptor was an obvious, holy crap, this thing has potential.
So much damage.
And the Hive Tyrants are Hive Tyrants. They're good again. They haven't been good for a while.
True.
So I thought outside of a few things, the whole codex itself seemed very balanced within itself. Comparing it to the rest of the codexes, it's like, okay, some things are a little, I don't know if I say overtuned, but just undercosted, because I wouldn't tone down some of these data sheets because they just wouldn't be surviving or something.
Undercosted, it sounds right.
Undercosted, with the exception, as much as I hate to say this, why just take the 4th wound off the Ravener. It makes no sense to me.
Do other people feel the same way about you as Raveners? Is that like a common thought? Yeah.
I don't want to take any credit, although I do a little bit. But everyone, when it first came out, it was all about Tyranid warriors in Leviathan. And I was saying, no, that's not the case. It is Tyranid Raveners in Kraken. That is what you should be worried about. And that seems to be the prevailing thought. Is the tournament lists are taking anywhere from 5 to 15 Raveners, because they are just so efficient. That 4th wound is just an absurd amount of durability.
Combined with the Zoanthropes Hive Imperative, combined with Catalyst.
Combined with Kraken. They're so good. And the biggest thing is they win the mirror matchup. You go 9 Raveners buffed versus 9 Warriors buffed. The Raveners, really, whoever goes first will probably win because but if the Raveners will hit harder.
And they're so fast.
And they're fast. They're awesome in Kraken.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I say, take off that 4th wound, leave them how they are. It doesn't make sense. Maliceptor, obvious big mortal wound boy. Yeah. He has been reined in, so he can no longer, it used to be he could do 4 powers.
Oh, that's right.
So they changed, this is another 40k wide change. They addressed it in just the Tyranid Codex, but because it's never been in any other codexes, is they officially confirmed that when you do a psychic action, it does count for one of your castings.
Right.
Previously, it was if you do a psychic action, you can't cast. There's never been a rule to say you can do both.
Right.
And because there's never been a rule, there's never been a stipulation. Does it count as a casting, or is it, it's an action and others are psychic powers, therefore they're different.
But it's confirmed now.
But they have confirmed it.
Yeah.
So that toned down one of his powers. And then
the stratagem?
The stratagem no longer affects him. So now that toned down another power. So now he can only do 2 psychic powers. It turns his potential from 25 down to 10. Which is a big...
Seems more appropriate though.
He will still probably get a point increase because he is still tanky. And he
still deals a lot of mortals.
He can still deal a lot of consistent mortal wounds. That's the big thing that people pointed out. He's still, unlike some psychic powers, some psychic things, I could do 1, I could do 5, I could do 2.
Yeah.
His is, if I get my powers off, on average,
likely.
I am doing 10 mortal wounds to you. I am walking up to a rhino and just deleting it.
One shot a rhino.
Yeah. And then he can still charge, and he can still do 5 mortal wounds on the charge if he wants to.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah.
So he's a big one. Let's see, Harpy.
The heavy venom.
Venom cannons going up to damage
4.
4 is
so odd. Still.
Wild.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have AP 4 damage 3, especially with Armor of Contempt.
But you didn't know that when the book came out.
But we didn't know that.
Yeah.
So Warriors are good. Warriors are an interesting one, and I've said this a lot. People think Warriors need to go up in price. I think they do, but GW's put them in an ugly situation where Warriors are only good in Leviathan.
Right.
They're good in all the other high fleets, but they're only oppressive in Leviathan. Having the permanent transhuman is just a dumb rule.
Tough to balance that, though.
Why permanent transhuman? Why not like the Space Marine custom chapter where it's ones and twos fail? Now, nothing's wounding warriors on ones and twos, so I get why they didn't, because they're toughness 5. So what's wounding a warrior on a 2?
The AdMech crab tank.
That thing's
neutron laser.
Strength 14 or strength 12, whatever it is. So
but that's about it.
But that's it. You're not shooting.
And knights.
If you're shooting that at warriors,
kind of a waste.
And some knight weapons. So I understand that part, but I just feel like they should have done something else, because I don't think they really thought about
They could nerf that in a chapter approved.
They could. Maybe they will. I low-key hope that's what they do instead of changing the warrior point cost.
Yeah.
Hive Tyrants are also very good. They did
I wouldn't say that they're broken, though. I wrote it on there because they're good now.
No, I think we talked about the stratagems. The change to Encircle the Prey does lower the potential of a Flyrant in case it's your get out of jail free card, that stratagem.
True.
Now you have to be a little more tactical with your Flyrant, because you still have Overrun to pop over a building, kill something, pop back.
I would say, though, Overrun compared to Encircle the Prey now, Overrun is less cheesy.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
you can still, if you maneuver correct, you could still get shots on the Tyrant at least.
Oh yeah, you can still get shots on a Tyrant.
With Overrun.
If you don't kill the enemy unit, you're stuck there. It's only if you kill. I think it's perfect. I think that's balanced. It's an old stratagem. I think, and then they clarified, we all tried to tell people the double Venom cannon on a Hive Tyrant was not a thing. And everyone said, but it's a thing. And we tried to warn you, and it came and they said, no, it's not a thing. So that used to be, you basically had your Hive Tyrant was a Harpy.
Yeah,
but better
Harpy.
because...
you can do that with a Flyrant too.
No, you can't, because you can only take one weapon.
Theoretically, though, before this. Oh,
no,
one weapon. Totally,
one weapon for a Flyrant. So a Foot Tyrant could take the Relic one and a normal one.
Oh, that's what they were
doing? So he had 3 shots at damage 5 and 3 shots at damage 4.
Oh, man.
Stick him behind Tyrant Guard. They also, because of the Hive Tyrants, I think they changed the Bodyguard keyword rule. Another army or game-wide change.
Yeah.
The rule then switched to... it only acts as lookout, sir, but with less than 3 models.
Which apparently that's been a problem for a long time in the game.
It just hasn't had an issue like a Hive Tyrant yet to abuse it.
Yeah.
But they did make a stipulation is that the Hive Tyrant skill can benefit even though they have more than 9 wounds.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it. I think for the Tyranids, we can say more about it, but I think
we talk enough about them.
We talk enough about Tyranids. Don't need to go too much farther on them.
We've talked about other stuff in other videos too. If you're interested in more,
absolutely.
Tyranids.
I always try to talk about. I want the Tyranids to be an army where they are. I would rather play a B tier and learn how to play them at an S tier level than play an S tier level and play an S tier codex and just be bored playing the same thing or whatever.
Which you felt when AdMech first came out. I remember you saying.
Oh, I did not enjoy playing AdMech right away. It was just too good. It was too much.
Yeah.
Quick ranting here quickly.
Yeah, sure.
GW is taking 40K and turning it into taking it from just a hobby, garage hammer, beer and pretzel type game to something that can be much more competitive. They're trying to make much more eventful for people to watch. I wonder if there's any betting going on in 40K games.
I'm sure there's a couple people who bet their friends.
Maybe it's,
I would guess,
technically illegal to bet on.
Well, if it is, we're not
games.
encouraging.
We're not encouraging anything at all. But if sports betting's not even legal in every state right now, so I can't imagine betting on a 40K game is the same.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're trying to make it more eventful, bring people in. They want it to be kind of like a video game where it's constantly being updated, keeping new life into the game, getting more people into it. It's just when you're playing a model-based game, not a video game where you change some code and then it's changed.
There's no physical stuff to it.
There's no physical things to it. It is a little bit more tedious in the changes, the printing, the actual, see how the data, they can't just look at people playing the game for, a week
True.
and see all of these results on their database. They have to wait for tournaments and games to come in. And
you also want new codexes to be fun when they come out.
Exactly.
You don't want them to be broken.
So for everyone who complains about GW and the way the power creep is,
we get you.
It's bad, but I am much more thankful that they are addressing the changes and trying to make the game the best they can.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm giving GW light that most people don't want to. I'm happy to do it.
We like this game. We want to be positive about it.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to see this grow twice the size it is now, even more.
True.
And
So my last thing is a question for you guys. How do you think this could be done better in 10th edition?
Ooh.
And obviously, there's so many things to talk about and consider with that. Obviously, they could playtest things more, but like Craig just explained, it's probably not easy to playtest everything to the degree that you need to.
Yeah.
So what are some more niche things that they could do, some more ways to test stuff out?
Think about a video game. Think about a first-person shooter, whatever one you want to pick. You've got, say, 20 guns that you're trying to balance between each other, and then maybe you have 20 perks or upgrades or something, equipment. You're trying to balance between each other. Okay, so there's a lot of combinations there. Now, think of that. That is half of one codex in 40K.
It's kind of hard to wrap your head around.
Then you have to do that, say double that, and do that for 20 plus codexes or armies.
20,
I think they're at 28. Votan will put them to 29 codexes.
I could try to
and
count.
then once they get Khorne and Slaanesh as their own codexes, we're going to be pushing over 30 armies.
Yeah, around 30.
Around 30.
Yeah.
So that is roughly 60 times the level of balancing they have to do versus
Warzone when they introduce a new gun.
Video game with a new gun.
Yeah.
It's not easy, and
let us know stuff
what you
think they could do, or different. I don't know.
I do think it going more digital at least on the rules, and they're doing that now. Chapter Approved is now 50% digital going forward.
True.
So that's something.
Yeah.
And they have the balanced data slates. We'll see. We'll see. So that's what we got for you guys today. If you like these more kind of sit down, just kind of discuss topics, give it a like. Let us know. We do want to try and spice up the content a little bit, trying out other things. So if you just like these kind of sit downs, chats, talk about a topic, give us some other options down in the comments below what you want to hear us talk about. Our opinion, we are not the most experienced in every aspect of the hobby, but we do have our opinions on most things.
And we really like the hobby.
Yeah, and we really like the hobby. We like to continue and contribute the best ways. And maybe in the future, we'll do these more as a live stream option too. I know live stream doesn't work for everybody, but you can sit back and watch it and talk, and we're just trying to expand and see what we can do here. So thank you guys for watching. Again, let us know in the comments if you have some ways to improve on these, but that's all we got for you guys. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you next time here at Maelstrom Gaming Studio.
Thanks, you guys.